Good morning, and it's great to be able to personally welcome you to Sage World 2010. And I'd like to start by thanking you for finding the time to be with us today, as I know many of you will have travelled a long way to be here. But I trust that that will be time well spent, as I hope the next 2 days will both be inspiring and informative for you. And this is an exciting time for us too, as it's the first time that we've held an event like this. And I hope that it's something which will go on the calendar for small businesses in the future. And there are selfish reasons too why we are holding this event this year, because we want to hear from you. We want to know the areas that you would like us to improve on, the areas you would like to see us do better, because we recognize we don't have all of the answers ourselves. We really want and we really value your feedback, even if by the end of today, the whole of this room was completely plastered full of your ideas, thoughts, or even complaints. Now, for those would-be graffiti artists in the audience, please do not take that as a personal invitation. But whether you are looking to start a business or whether you are looking to grow an existing business, Sage World is designed to give you practical help, advice, and guidance. This is your opportunity to hear from top UK business leaders, as well as industry experts in areas such as finance, marketing, e-commerce, legislation, risk, and so on. And these guys are going to share with you their experiences and their expertise. And this is also going to be an interactive event where you will have the opportunity to see live demonstrations, talk to our technical experts, as well as taking the opportunity to network. In total, there are over 40 sessions for you to choose from. And to begin in that spirit of interaction, as Matt just mentioned, I'm also going to ask you to do some work in a few moments' time. But don't worry, it's nothing too strenuous for this time of the day. It'll just involve you pressing a few buttons on the Spot Me technology. Now, as we arrive here today at Sage World, there's lots going on in the economy. There's lots of uncertainty in the economy in terms of how our own economy is likely to perform over the next few months and years. There remains real challenges for small businesses getting access to funding. It's unclear what's going to happen to levels of inflation or levels of employment. And it's still unclear what the impact of the VAT increase is going to be later this year, or of those public sector cuts as they really begin to bite in. So as we arrive here today, there remains lots of uncertainty in the economy today. And I could have picked lots of data to kind of make that point, but what this slide shows you is it just reinforces that point I was just making. So if you look at the first graph, what that shows you is the predicted growth in the UK economy over the next few years. And isn't it great to see all of our UK experts in this area are so completely aligned in terms of their predictions? You can pick anything here from -2 to +7, +8. And what the bar chart shows you is another indicator of potential growth for Eurozone countries. This time it shows you the level of national debt versus GDP for those countries. And actually on that measure, we fare reasonably well as a country. Unfortunately for both Greece and Italy, they top that particular table. But look, they have wonderful climates, and in the case of Italy, some fantastic wines as well. So you can't always have everything. But all of this just goes to reinforce that point about uncertainty. And it was only actually 6 weeks ago that the forecast for the UK economy was reduced in terms of its growth rates for next year from 3.5% to sub 3%, with some commentators again beginning to talk about the threat of a double dip. And what was interesting to me is, at that same time, our own Governor of the Bank of England specifically referenced the lack of available bank lending was really going to limit economic growth in the future. And from what you tell us all of the time, we know that access to funding for small businesses remains a real challenge. And as the banks continue to refinance their balance sheets, access to those funds remains really tough. In fact, when we did our monthly research with you back in June, you told us that 1 in 3 of you, a really high percentage, 1 in 3 of you, had been declined a bank loan in the last 3 months alone. And we can really empathize with that point at Sage, because we started ourselves as a small business 28 years ago now, with just 4 employees. And in those days, could we get access to funding? No. It was really, really difficult for us. Today, as a £1.5 billion business, can we get access to funding? Too right we can, and normally at the drop of a hat. But that lack of available funding for small businesses, it just feels wrong. It's so frustrating, and at times it's quite outrageous. And I believe that's where Sage has a really important role to play in supporting you through these challenging times, by providing you with those tools which will give you an insight into your business, your customers, your finance, the dynamics of your organization, so that we can manage through these more difficult times more effectively. And it's also interesting that those same financial institutions are now demanding even greater access and greater information from us in terms of financial projections and forecasts. But let me also be very, very clear. We recognize our role here as a provider of business software and services. We are here to provide you with the tools that you need, which will give you those insights into your business. But we also recognize it is you who run your businesses, and we are here to support you in the best way in which we can do, whichever way your business demands, whether it be growing, consolidating, or in some instances, even cutting back. And having run a small business myself, I can really, again, empathize with some of the challenges of running a small business. I remember when I think back to my business, more often than not, the only thing which ever concerned us was whether or not we were able to make our payroll. But today in my role, and with access to customers and information, I believe it's more imperative than ever that Sage uses that information and that knowledge to support our small business community. You know, today at Sage, we work with over 800,000 small and medium-sized businesses. Businesses just like yours, businesses which form the backbone of the UK economy. There are 7 million people who are paid every week, every month through a Sage payroll. And like many of you, we have great relationships with accountants in practice. And today, there are over 14,000 accountants in practice who use Sage to run their practices as well. And all of that gives us a really privileged and advantageous view in terms of what's happening across the UK economy and what's happening with British business in general. And as I said earlier, I believe it's really imperative that we then use that information well to support our customers, to be able to give you those tools and to support you in the best way we can do through these challenging times. So I'd like to spend the next few minutes by describing what our vision is for small and medium-sized businesses, but also to demonstrate areas where I believe we can really help you, areas around product, service, and I'd like to spend a little bit of time just exploring some other services which we may be able to offer you in the future. So let me start with our vision for